All right, we've got Patrick Oropallo, PGA professional, certified good, cool guy, who's also an incredible chef, actually. Somebody that I've co-hosted events with that, we invite PGA professionals over, and I'm pretty sure they figured out that if Patrick's cooking, you better not miss out. There's FOMO involved when Patrick's cooking, which is a good thing. That's a high compliment. So thank you for joining, Patrick. So this Leaders and Legends interview, you're still in the leader category. You're not a legend yet. Enjoy it while it lasts. You will be a legend soon, but you can enjoy the young man face while you have it. I don't know where I'm at in that thing. I don't think I'm either. So I have my own category. See what that is. So again, thank you for joining. So one of my favorite questions to start these kind of conversations off is sort of, don't assume I don't know. I might know some of this, but assume we don't know. So how'd you find the game of golf? Where did it sort of, that first club in your hand, or that sort of first feeling of swinging a club that just got you hooked?
Yeah, it was, let's see, I was definitely an ADM kid. I still love baseball. I love playing baseball, basketball, but I was really into skateboarding. I love skateboarding still to this day. If you catch me zoning out sometimes, I would probably be watching a skateboarding video. I just am so level of skill and talent of someone who is proficient on a skateboard is incredible. So rewind back, I'm 12 years old. I'm heavily into skateboarding, but I kind of love all sports. My grandpa, who lived in Florida, who I didn't get to see very often, for Christmas, a set of Wilson Junior 1200s showed up at my doorstep with a bunch of egg crates filled with old golf balls. And I didn't think those were very cool. Yeah, my golf.
He probably spent more on the shipping than he did on the clubs. That's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, so when I finally did visit him, he had egg crates stacked to the ceiling with golf balls. He was one of those guys at your golf courses that loves to hunt golf balls. So, anyways, it just wasn't cool at the time. Like, my hair was dyed. I was wearing baggy jeans, skateboarding, like that's not my sport. I'm not into that. That's not hardcore enough. And so the golf stayed that way for a long time. And I remember vividly in 7th grade being fascinated by the accomplishments of Tiger Woods and seeing him at the Masters. I don't know what resonated with me, Monte. Just the way he kicked everyone's butt. I think looking back, like the way he dominated, I was taken aback. And I remember I wrote like a little research paper on it. And it was weird how I connected with him. And so I took that crusty Wilson 1200 set, which had been gathering dust. But I lived, behind Safeway, and there wasn't a golf course near me in Ashland, Oregon, Southern Oregon. But there was a graveyard adjacent to me. So I took some wiffle balls.
The story's getting better. I've never heard this. This is awesome.
Yeah, I took some wiffle balls that my mom bought me at Walmart. I begged her, or not Walmart, excuse me, Bi-Mart, for those of you who knows what a Bi-Mart is. And I just hit the wiffle ball around the perimeter of the graveyard. I was very respectful. I replaced divots. I didn't mess with the graveyard, but I was able to work around these old oak trees and kind of made my own golf course. And it just absolutely hooked me like crazy. And I loved it. And I remember the first time my buddies, I invited them to join me. They were like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Oh, this is fun. Give it a try," or whatever. And we would challenge hitting little kind of flop shots over the sign of our apartments and just stupid little stuff like that. And then that's where it started, Monte. And then I realized that there was a cool 9-hole municipal golf course on the south side of town called Oak Knoll Golf Course in Ashland. And I would, again, beg my mom to drop me off. And I realized, oh, putting's a thing, and got really into putting. And the reason I kind of went this way is because it was free. And in a single parent household, money was not flowing. Like, we had enough to be comfortable. We had enough to, live a comfortable life, but there wasn't extra, stuff like that. So I wasn't playing, but I was, obsessed with the putting green and the chipping area. You wouldn't know it now if you played with me. My short game is questionable, but I just.
It's true. Like I have a memory of that too in college, where it's like I'd go to the practice green at Laurelwood and just screw around for hours in the rain, have the place to myself because I couldn't afford to hit balls and I couldn't afford to play. But it was very much Zen time for me. It became to just relax. And so what was the, really quickly, what was the sort of impetus where you figured out that the putting green or practice green was free? Like, you remember, like, I'm amazed. I remember as a golf pro figuring out that people are like, I can do this for free. It's like, yeah, it's a practice green. And then it dawned, like, they didn't know that. Like, I remember at some point I didn't know that either, but I remember I'd forgotten. It's funny how we do that. But when were you, when was it that you were just clicked, like, I can come out here and spend hours and it doesn't cost my mom anything?
Yeah, I don't recall the exact moment, but I recall, figuring it out pretty quick. What I do have vivid memories of is walking into the golf shop, and it smelled of gasoline. At the time, the pro was using gasoline for grip to help put on grips. It was just that kind of place. Like, it was they were playing. They were playing cribbage at the counter. You had a coffee pot on at all times. There was gasoline in the background, jokes being told, and just kind of walking into that environment. I was fascinated by it. And there's no driving range at Oak Knoll at the time, Monte. So I used to just go hit balls between holes 1 and 2, which was the locals' hack for warming up at the time. And so that's how I fell in love with the game. And then I got my friends into it. And there was a core group of my friends, 4 to 6 of us, that bought these monthly passes. It was very affordable. I'm talking like off season was like $60. In season, I think, was 120 for all the golf you could play for a junior. And so, like, my summers after that, I gave up skateboarding. Like, it literally just took over my life. I loved it so much. We would get dropped off at like 9 a.m., and we would just get picked up at dusk or later. There was a light over the putting green, and there was a restaurant there as well. So it was like a lively place to be at night. Like, it was almost like after hours at the golf course. So that's how I feel like the game found me a little bit. And it was partly Tiger Woods, partly my grandfather, partly the folks in the golf shop were really welcoming. They didn't make me feel, less than, or like I didn't belong, or, I know I wasn't dressed right the first few times I came in, but no one ever made me feel that way. I remember my very first golf lesson there was from a gentleman named Buddy Sullivan, who was the head pro at Pasatiempo for many years. He played on the tour, and he kind of came up to Oak Knoll to retire. So here Oak Knoll has this Municipal 9, has this legendary golf professional, and he's got his Crown Royal bag spilled over on its side, hitting this double breaking putt on the small putting green at Oak Knoll. And I remember I was putting, and I had a new glove, right? So I'm putting with my glove on, and he says, "Hey son, come on over. I want to talk to you a little bit. Do you mind if I tell you a thing or two?" And he said, "I would recommend you putt with that glove off. Your feel will be better." And he watched me hit a few putts. He put my hands were way up on the top of this putter that was too long for me. So he put my hands, further down, and talked to me about getting a little closer. Like, I remember the lesson to this day. I didn't know he was like pro emeritus at Oak Knoll at the time, and he was retired, or who he was or what he had done in his former life. But that was my first golf lesson.
Nice old man golfer.
He was just helping me out. He saw someone who just really, probably he was there a lot. He probably noticed I was there a lot. and said, I think I could help you. So that
How
was
old,
my very
how old were you
first
at
golf.
that point? How old were you at that
Uh,
point? 16?
I had to have been, 13, 14.
Okay. It's funny how Medford area, Medford Ashland, is a place that a lot of people like to end up. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, I haven't fact checked this. I'm sure it's true, but Chandler Egan lived the remainder of his life out here in Medford. In fact, his home is still there, is what I'm told.
That's what makes Medford and Ashland a special place. Um, and and everything I've ever heard about Chandler Egan is a special stuff that guy had going. So you're working with Buddy Sullivan. Did you play high school golf?
I did. Yeah, I played high school golf, so I stuck with it. Um, I When I was about 14, 15, I started babysitting the head pros kids. And that was and cleaning carts here and there. So then I started to get free golf, which was a big deal, which was awesome. And I think the pros kind of sensed, when I say the pros, some of my early mentors were Bob Haney, Nick Sherman, Tom Kohler. These were the folks who had the contract with the city to run the golf course. And these were early influences in my career. And they were the ones that, really got to know me well. And they saw, like I said, they didn't maybe sense they didn't know for fact what was going on in my life, like in terms of, the finances, or I was a bit of a rebel in high school. You wouldn't know it now. I'm I can walk the line, but in high school, I was a little whiskey tango. But, they were always, supportive of me and kept me in line and invited me to be a part of it. And that's one thing that I've carried with me my entire life, my entire career, all the way through operations, is I really felt like no matter who walked through the door, that I wouldn't be thrown off by what they were wearing or how they presented, that I would treat everyone the exact same. And that was with, the utmost respect, and to show them the best possible time, unreasonable hospitality, if you will. And I learned those lessons early on because I remember how it made me feel.
That's really important, actually. And I would say that having worked with you in so many different ways, I know that's to be true. Like, that's just the way you are. So you're playing high school golf. Any particular stories where you just have a memory of high school golf that you'd be like either good, bad, or indifferent? Funny now, awesome experience, anything amazing, whatever.
Well, I remember going in as a freshman. Remember that friend group? We've all been playing golf all summer. We got pretty good. We wore out that 9-hole track. We would play, minimum 18 holes, but oftentimes 36 holes was the regular or more. We just kept going around. We were fueled by soda and candy bars and good times. Like, we just those are some
good
of
old
the
days.
some of the best memories of my life were just making fun of each other playing golf. And so when we went on, we all, entered high school at the same time. Ashland was going to get like 4 really solid players.
Yeah. And not a huge town, not a huge school to have,
no,
plus tight knit.
Yeah. And so we ended up, made the team. When I say made the team, we were JV, and we were shooting like, high 30s, low 40s as freshmen, all of us. But there was a special golfer on the team, and his name was Jason Allred. Jason Allred played played on tour. And I remember, Jason was the type of high school player. He won the USGA Junior Amateur. But at that age, he was just unbelievable. It was my first experience being around a player who just made your jaw drop. Like, I remember one of my earliest memories is at Roseburg Country Club playing in a golf tournament. Brian Sackett's the head professional there. And number 1 at Roseburg Country Club is literally like a bowling alley. It's opened up a little bit now, but at the time, the oak trees were just like this. And it's a very small area around the tee. And they're 50, 60 high school golfers wanting to watch one of the best juniors in the country tee off. So everyone who's on property is gathered around this tee. And you could see the other kids that were playing with Jason were just shaking, like this
They were
is,
playing with Tiger Woods
yeah,
in their world.
I was nervous. I was nervous, and
Yeah.
I'm just watching. And
Yeah.
Jason puts his, I think he played a professional 100. Title is professional 100. And he grabs, so he had these they were just ram blades. I want to say ram nickel blades, like these tiny little things. And
Like Watson blades, probably.
2-iron. He's got a 2-iron off this tee. And Jason was so long, and he hits this 2-iron so pure. That's when you just knew that this guy was absolutely different. The moment didn't even affect him one bit, and he hit this 2-iron just so much further than everyone else, right up near the green. He's shooting anywhere from 64 to 70 every single time. Typically around 66, 67. And so that was the leader of our team when I was a freshman. And so it was really hard to make the team because his younger brother, Kyle, was a good player. Just him being who he was, golf was kind of cool in Ashland. And so this tiny little community had a really strong golf team. And then as I got older, I obviously became, one of the leaders of that team when I was a junior and a senior. But we were good for a long time. We had a lot of fun. High school was where I learned that, I had, that same 9-hole golf course that I love, that I played all the time. I mastered it, but gosh, playing other golf courses, I had a hard time, and financials at home were still the same. So I didn't have the ability to throw down a greens fee or travel elsewhere. So I had to get creative with how I tried to get better. But at that same time, Monte, the Golf Channel became a thing. And I was absolutely, and I realized looking back, this is one of the reasons I love teaching and coaching, and I've always done it. I was absolutely obsessed with Dave Pelz, Dean Reinmuth, the people that the Golf Channel was highlighting. I'm like, man, this is gold what these people are talking about. And I'm just a young, impressionable kid. And I would go to the Oak Knoll and try it out. But I didn't take a formal lesson since Buddy Sullivan for a long, long time. You get your tips or whatever from the pros, but I look to the Golf Channel. And that's when I started to fall in love with like the finer points of the game, the technical aspects of the game. And it really helped me through high school, but realized, man, I'm missing something. And I think that was the variability of playing different courses, different textures, different green speeds. I remember if the greens got Oak Knoll wasn't the fastest greens in the world, but if I played a place with fast greens, I just had a tough day because I'd never done it. So those were some of the things that held me back a little bit. But I fond memories of high school golf and the laughs and the bus rides. And, looking at me today, I'm an assistant coach for a local high school, Crater High School, mainly because my oldest son was on the team. But now I'm going to continue on and continue to be an assistant because it fills my cup. And now Patrick, my oldest son, is going to actually help out as an assistant as well because he's going to college here locally. So I love high school golf. I love the team atmosphere.
One of the things that I think is interesting about high school golf is, and I have a similar, I literally rolled out at like 14 and a half. I remember the first practice round, not counting, having a senior, the captain of the team, we're playing, and I was pretty nervous. He was not Jason Allred good, but he was pretty good. To me, he was great. And he looked at me when I was putting on the first green from like 6 feet, and the pin's in the hole still. And in those days, you shouldn't do that. And he was like, "Aren't you going to take the pin out?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, sure. Sorry, I was just trying to go fast. Of course I would do that when it counts." I didn't know. And he wasn't a jerk about it. He could have been like, "Hey, dummy, dumb freshman." So at least he was nice. But I've always remembered that. I also think that the interesting part is I wouldn't say that my high school coach, he's passed away now, so he can't be offended by what I'm going to say. But he was okay as a coach. He was okay as a sort of roll the golf balls at you. Hey, go get them, guys, kind of thing. But he wasn't a real coach. Like, he couldn't. Pretty quickly, I was better than him, and I just learned the game. And that's my one thing that I always wish is always just, how can we get people like Patrick involved in high school golf? Unfortunately, it doesn't really. It has to be a labor of love, because it doesn't really pay. And usually the people who are the coaches aren't that bad of individuals, but they're people that are teachers, and then they also are track coaches, football coaches, all kinds of things. And they're sort of, to them, it's just another stipend, and they're just adding money, as opposed to, helping. I mean, I have done stuff myself where I'm like a rules coach, just help come in a couple times during the season to help them with rules sessions and stuff like that. But I haven't done that in a few years after my kids got out of high school. But yeah, it's a cool thing that you're doing that. And I know that that's one of the things that Oregon chapter did for a while, and it was really helpful. And it kind of has not happened of late. Maybe it'll come back, is that high school coaches summit, where we train the, non-PGA high school coaches to help them. We're trying to train the coaches to be better coaches. And actually, I think the feedback was really good about that. So kudos to you for doing that. So I know Jason is still in golf. He, not on the tour, but he does a lot of cool stuff through golf still. And he's definitely still a Medford Ashland guy. Still highlights Southern Oregon with his good work that he does to help other people with beyond golf, but through golf. So that was a cool mention. I didn't expect that name to come up, but I guess maybe I should have. I didn't know you guys were high school teammates. That's pretty cool. So after high school, you went to school, and then you sort of learned how to be a chef. So how did that happen?
Yeah, I was going to Southern Oregon University, which is a great college here in town. And I was working at a local steak house called Omar's Restaurant. And if you're ever going through Ashland, you certainly need to go in there for, a cocktail or dinner. It's awesome. It's an Ashland institution. And that was a scratch kitchen, and it was a brigade system. So in the culinary world, a brigade system definitely has the same structure as a golf facility: a general manager, director of instruction, director of golf, head professional. There's that same executive chef, saute, grill type of tertiary setup. And so I was the lowest level, of course, pantry cook, but it was a scratch kitchen. So what that means is we're making stocks from scratch, and everything was from scratch. There was no waste, cost of goods. And looking back now, like, their cost of goods must have been great, because they were utilizing onion ends and carrot shavings to make beautiful stocks and demi-glace, and like all these things that seemed really laborious and lame at the time. It had very much a purpose. And I remember I just really fell in love with the, this is more than just simply throwing fries in a fryer. This is an environment where, you're expected to execute at a high level, where if, something's not cut correctly, it'll get sent back to you. And I say sent back kindly, it's, the chef is going to be in my face, because that's money. That's money. That's money. He was part owner. And so I really felt, concepts like mise en place, everything has its place, very clean workstation, very organized. Those things certainly have helped me in the golf world and in my career as an operator. But at the time, I just fell in love with, the creation. And it was honestly a pretty fun job. The food and beverage world is pretty fun. And so when I was going to school, that was one of the ways I, paid for extras. And then I had the ability, if I got the dishes done, I was the bar cook. So I worked 4:00 to close. So I'd work through the dinner service. And then once I got everything cleaned up, I just cooked burgers and fryer food for the bar. But it also afforded me time to do my homework. So that was kind of the grind for me at the time. And it was a fun one. I loved it.
So yeah, no, definitely. And the reality too is I've had much of your food, and you do it with like it's the same way that you enjoy probably the creative aspects of short game or hitting shots around. If you really boil it down, you probably started to figure that out when you were hitting wiffle balls around that cement orchard, as my dad would call it, or that granite orchard. You were hitting it around those things. You were shaping shots with the wiffle ball, but it's a creative thing. So that's really cool. So you did that, and then I'm sure at some point you thought, well, maybe I'll be a chef, or maybe I'll do something else. What were you majoring in college, and then sort of what got you to where you made your first run at being, in those days, an apprentice?
Yeah, so I never thought of getting in the culinary world because I still just absolutely am obsessed with golf. And Southern Oregon University at the time, they do now, they didn't have a golf team. And so I'm on this quest to try to make, a golf team. I feel like, oh gosh, of course, that's my next step. I need to play college golf. So I did a couple years at SOU, and, like in a small fishbowl, you can be the biggest fish. So like I am the best golfer in Ashland, by a lot at this time, because Jason's moved away, thank goodness. But, like I am proficient, and especially at that golf course, I've played it 1,000 times. And I am looking to, well, of course I'm going to play college golf. Look at the scores I'm shooting. I'm going to be great. Of course people will want me. So I hatched this plan that I'm going to go to Oregon State. I'm going to transfer, and I'm going to walk on their golf team, because I didn't know what I didn't know. I certainly wasn't aware of recruiting. I just, this young naivete that, in your own head. And I didn't really have anyone that was saying, well, this is kind of the way this goes. I'm also working in the golf shop a little bit at this time too, Monte. So I'm closing the golf shop, getting my first taste of that world. And the folks at Oak Knoll were so generous to put together we did a fundraising tournament. And so they sent me off to college with a nice nest egg. I got a scholarship and put me in Corvallis. And I remember going to tryouts, which is 36 holes one day. And it's just pouring like Corvallis rain. There's rain, there's bad rain, then there's Corvallis rain. So that's Corvallis rain. And we're playing the tips. And it is not a friendly place. It can play pretty long. And I remember playing pretty good. I was low score that day. I had like something in the high 70s, and then a little lower, not quite 75, but 76. But I'm just thinking to myself, in these conditions, from the tips, I'm the lowest here. I just shot a couple of really good scores. Honestly, like today, I would be pumped with what I did then. And I remember gathering up around the green. My first inclination should have been that the head coach isn't here. The assistant coach is here, and she gathers us all up. She says, "Hey, everybody, thanks for coming out. Blah, blah, blah. We just didn't see any impact players today. And so we hope that everyone come back next year." And so what you've got to realize is, for me, well, of course I'm going to make the team. They're going to be pumped to have me. I remember going into the coach's office and leaving them messages, "I'm going to be the hardest worker you ever had." But I realize now they hear that from everybody. Truly, I would have been the hardest worker he ever had. But anyways, I just, in that moment, was so devastated because my world came crashing down. Well, don't you know, I just moved from my hometown to be here and to play for you. This is part of my plan. What do you mean I'm not on the team? And I think, this is certainly a defining moment in my life and will always be.